Hello and welcome back to part 2 of step 8. So in the first video we did glide reflection, so a combination of a reflection and a translation. And then we did another one with a reflection and a rotation. So in this video we're going to talk about what specifically happens when we have two reflections combined. Okay, so we have two different options. We have what happens if our two lines that we're reflecting over are parallel. Okay, if you remember, parallel lines never intersect, right? They run on like railroad tracks forever and ever and ever. They never meet. So we're really specifically worried about what happens from the beginning, so like this original pre-image, to the end. So as you can see, this blue image was reflected over line K to create the green one, and then the green one was then reflected over line L to create this like maroonish one. Okay, so you can see that it was reflected twice. Okay, the biggest thing is that if we look from the very beginning, this blue one, all the way to the maroon one, it's as if we slid the figure across the lines. Okay, so if it's two reflection in parallel lines, this is going to cause a translation from the very beginning to the very end. The other thing is the distance of the translation is going to be twice the distance between the lines. Okay, so for example, if let's say this distance here was 3 inches. Okay, our distance between the lines was 3 inches. From the very beginning to the very end, remember we translated it, so this would be called a translation. And we actually double the distance. Okay, the reason that is remember when we reflect something, it has to be the same distance from the line. Okay, so we've basically have one distance from here to here, and then a second distance from the middle one to the end one. So the translation for this one, if our distance was 3 inches, would be a translation of 6 inches in total from beginning all the way to the end. Okay, so that's if they're parallel. We also might have that the lines are intersecting. Okay, if the lines are intersecting, then it's going to look a little different. Okay, so same kind of idea. We start with this blue one, it's reflected to create the green one, and then the green one creates this maroon one. So two reflections in intersecting lines actually causes a rotation. Okay, the figure just ends up spinning around that point of intersection. Kind of like when we rotate something in the coordinate plane, right? Like our x and our y axis are connected, right? They're intersecting. So if we just kept rotating something about the origin, it would just keep spinning around and around the graph around that origin. Okay, the other thing is when we do this twice, just like in the last one where we doubled the distance, okay, this is twice the measure of the angle. Okay, so for example, let's say this acute angle was, I don't know, 70 degrees. Just put a little 70 degrees there. That means that if we do this twice, right, we're doubling it, this would be a rotation of 140 degrees, twice that acute angle. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice here with actual values. Okay, so it says copy and reflect figure A in line M, then line P. Then describe a single transformation that goes from A onto a double prime. So it's asking from the very beginning to the very end. So we're going to do our best. I know we're not going to copy these perfectly down, and that's okay. But do our best to just reflect it. So obviously this corner here is going to be close. Maybe it goes up like this. And that's, oh no, I just erased it. Not as steep there. Oh, wow, that's not, we're just doing our best here. Not an artist. Oh, that looks better. Okay, so this would be our A prime, right? And then we're going to now take that one, the pink one, and reflect it over line P. So it's going to be further away. Oh, no, this is not going to be good. Let's say it's like here-ish. Maybe something like that. And then we will put a double prime there. Obviously, it's not perfect, and that's okay. We're just doing our best. So it's asking us, though, what's the transformation from A, the original, to A double prime? So from here all the way to here. Okay, in an ideal world where we could just maybe copy and paste it or had a nicer shape, we could tell that from A to A double prime, it's as if we just slid it across the page. So this is going to be a translation. Okay, and our distance is going to be double the angle, or I'm sorry, not the angle, the distance between the lines. So we're going to double 1.75, which would give us 3.5 centimeters. So our final answer would be not only drawing the shape, because that's what it asked for, but that this is a translation 3.5 centimeters. Okay, let's look at our next one. Notice the next one, our lines are intersecting, okay, which makes it super fun to reflect these by hand. So if it helps, feel free to turn your paper or turn your computer so that M is almost like a vertical or a horizontal line for you. It might help you reflect it, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to reflect it over line M. Oh no, I have a feeling this is not going to go well. So it would be something maybe like this. And then like this. Okay, that's good enough. We get the idea. This would be A prime. And then we're going to take that shape and we're going to reflect it again. So maybe something like this-ish. I don't know. This shape's a little harder to see, but you get the idea, right? We're just trying. So for this one, we're looking from A to A double prime. Okay. I know it's probably hard to see in my figure, but from the beginning to the very end, if they're intersecting, this is a rotation. Okay, and then to get the degree of rotation, we're going to double that acute angle, which is 60, and get 120. So this would be a rotation of 120 degrees. Okay, so we also have, what if we're going to go backwards? So what if we are given the image and we're asked to flip it back? Okay, so we could see this picture. No, let's do this one. We'll talk about this one and then maybe we can do part B in class. Okay. So instead of going in the order that we were told, we have to work backwards. So this shape originally was translated and then reflected. So we need to undo the reflection and then take care of the translation. We have to go backwards when we're undoing this. Okay, so do your best. I know these are not easy shapes here. I don't have like a brown. Not that it really matters, I guess, but just to match. So if we're gonna unreflect it, we're gonna reflect it back over where it's a mirror image. So this one is kind of like the same because you are just putting it back. So you're like almost redoing the reflection. Okay, and then we got to do our stem. So remember, it's going to be a mirror image. So instead of curving to the right, it's going to curve to the left. This one's not so bad. Not as bad as my triangle before. That was horrendous. Okay, so that would be undoing the reflection to the best of our ability. And then we have to undo the translation. So we have to slide it back to the start of vector k. Okay, so we're going to slide it back. Go over here. Okay, obviously mine's not going to look the same just for the sake of time. I'll speed up coloring it in. If you want to take more time because you're more of an artist, feel free to pause the video. Okay, but remember when we translate, the figure is not changing orientation. We're just, whoa, that's not a good leaf. We're just basically sliding it over. Okay, so the biggest thing if you're trying to find the pre-image after the composition, do them in reverse order there. Okay. Okay, same thing for B. We'll probably go over B in class, but make sure you're doing it backwards. Okay. So just to reiterate, a glide reflection would be a composition of a reflection and then a translation. A translation comes when we reflect in parallel lines. And a rotation is when we reflect into intersecting lines. Okay, so reflection, translation. Okay, the next part is more of, can you recognize a pattern? Okay, you might recognize the pattern slightly different than I do, and that's okay, as long as your pattern makes sense, right? We kind of visited this in our logic, where if you wrote your conjecture like multiplying by 2 and I said dividing by 2 or multiplying by 1/2, same thing, okay? But you have to figure out what was the pre-image and how is it being copied throughout the pattern. So I don't know about you, but my eye goes to this repetition of we have pink, red, blue, yellow, pink, red, blue, yellow. So every time we hit another pink, the pattern repeats itself, right? So we could say that this beginning group, this could be our pre-image. And then we're just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Okay? So our pattern could be that we are just doing, we're taking that and we're doing translations. Okay? Here's another example where we have these. I'm interpreting this as we're going from this top, or if we're starting here. I like to read patterns from left to right. So if, this is our first triangle, we're going down to this one, and then up, and then down, and then this one. So we could say that this triangle is our pre-image. And then we have to ask ourselves, how did we get from that triangle down to this second triangle, or whichever triangle you determined as the second one? I would say that to get to that one, we probably needed to reflect it, right? Because it's a mirror image. So maybe we reflected it. Okay, which would put it down here, but that didn't match up. So maybe we reflected it and then we translated it over, right? We made the mirror image and then we slid it over. So maybe we reflected it and then translated it. And then from here, we reflected it back up and translated it, reflected it and translated it. If you want to be more specific and say exactly what the reflection is or exactly what the translation is, feel free. Not necessary because we're just trying to make sure we understand the composition. Okay. If you want to get even more specific, if you remember a reflection and a translation combination, we called this specifically a glide reflection. But a reflection translation combination would be okay with me. Okay, so that is step 8. Hopefully we're getting an even deeper understanding of transformations. And I will see you in step 9. Thanks for watching.